Goldylocks Productions broadcasts universal cosmic frequencies that unlock, awaken, and expand the consciousness of our worldwide viewers and listeners. Explore secrets of the universe with show host Sherri Sage Zimmerman. Navigate between the worlds of both the physical and the spiritual planes of existence.
Welcome back, everyone, to Secrets of the Universe. This will be another exciting show. I find all these interesting guests in different pockets of the world, mostly in our country, but also some other countries. So, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about today with a woman who she's very actually involved in a lot of different areas that are so interesting. Of course, you know, I work with a lot of different types of variety of people because I like to really give a different kinds of shows. So she does work with the spiritual work as far as an advisor and a hypnotist, life coach. She does quite a bit. So in a minute, we're going to bring her on and we're going to just let her share her story and the work that she's doing and how you can get more involved with the services that she offers. I want to take a minute to also say, for those of you who are watching on the YouTube channel through the Goldylocks Productions, we have a new thing called Super Chats. If you look under the comments, there's a little emoji there that you can donate if you'd like $1. For the show. And I also take note to those because I also like to be able to give a free mini reading that I would be doing for the first person that decides to do some donating. So it's just a little extra thing we do here, just to kind of keep it fun and be able to offer our viewers some added services. So just in case if anybody wants to do that, you would have to go on YouTube on the live channel of Goldylocks Productions. With that said, I do want to go ahead and bring in our guest, and her name is Lana McAra. And Lana, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sherri. What a joy to be with you today.
Yeah, this will be so interesting because once I looked over your website, I was very excited for all the different kinds of work and how much work you've done in a variety of medias, you know, different, just a lot, TV and radio, and you have your own show, which we'll talk about. And one day I would love to end up being on your show. But one of the things I was looking at your website and I thought, oh my gosh, you're the author of over 30 books. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I've seen that with other authors, and I'm an author. I've written a couple books for those. My audience pretty much knows I've written more on mental health issues. One's my autobiography, and then I have a new book coming out, hopefully the end of this year. It's my Mother Mary book. She appeared in my room when I was 9 for just a moment, so I wrote about that story. But when I see what you're doing, like, how do you do that many books? So just introduce yourself as far as, who you are and why you got into any of this work, because you do so much.
Oh, wow. That's like big box there. I started writing when I was 24. Now that was almost 40 years ago. So, it's been a long time, but it took me 14 years to get published. I worked on my first book for 14 years. Wow. I want to emphasize that because I was teaching myself to write. I had minored in English in college, and what I found out was in the creative space, what you do for academic papers is very different from what you do for a published book and also for novels, because I was writing novels. That was my passion. And so I was teaching myself that craft. And one of the things I tell people about writing is you learn to write by writing. Mm-hmm. It's not a quick and easy process. There are things we have to break through, because one of the things that happened to me in that 14-year period was my personal development. When I started writing, I was under the domination of my mother, very strong, narcissistic, negative, malignant person. And I did not have any freedom to, I was living right in here in the protective mode. I had no freedom to really express myself and who I was. And in that period, there came a crisis moment, and I broke my contact. I went no contact with her because that's what you have to do with a narcissist. And over the next couple of years, all of a sudden I started blossoming, and my first book got published. And that was in 1996. And then my books began to just, I one after the other, after the other, after the other. So my first novel was the reader's favorite that year. And 4 years later, in 2000, I won a national award for my fiction.
Oh, wow. Nice. So, what was the name of the first one? I'm excited to share it with my audience in case they want to check that out.
That series is so dear to my heart. The first book was called Megan's Choice, and it was eventually put into a bundle of 4 novels in one book called Colorado. That was under my old name, Rosie Dow, ROSEYDOW. If you go to Amazon, you'll see Rosie Dow over there. Now, under Lana McAra, I have a couple of titles, but Rosie Dow is the bulk of my work. Up to now. Now I'm writing a full-length novel right now. I am so excited. It's actually going to happen this year. Because I've been full-time ghostwriting for the last 5 years. I haven't had time to write my own stuff, but this year I'm going to do it.
Good.
Yeah. So the way that I was able to pump out that many books was because I am a project manager. I'm very organized. I had 7 children. So I just want to emphasize, while I was writing, I had these 7 kids, right?
Wow.
I'm homeschooling them. Yeah.
7 children. And
7 children.
Oh my gosh.
Homeschooling them. And we were living overseas in a third world country at the time. So
unbelievable.
This, it kind of stacks up, which is why I say I'm recovering workaholic. I'm in the 12-step program for overachieving. So what I did was I created a process for myself to shorten the time. And I was able to pump out 2 a year, sometimes 3 a year in those days.
Wow. I'm going to have to talk to you about that.
Well, even now.
Yeah, I have some books sitting on my computer for literally 5 to 8 years now. And, I'm trying to get them moved. But yeah, I'll have to talk with you about that. Okay.
Yeah. Even now, when I'm ghostwriting, I will ghostwrite 2 or 3 a year. So I kind of cracked the code on, some of the parts of it. So that's how I did it. And the other piece of it was my passion. I would get up at 5 a.m. I would be so excited to roll out of bed. Oh yes, I get to sit at the computer for 2 hours before the kids wake up, and I would pump out the pages, and I would be just delighted. Yeah.
That's amazing. You really are an inspiration, seriously, for all of us out there that, have raised children. I've been a single mother, and it's not an easy task at all. So for what you've accomplished, that's amazing. Yeah, I can see where you could help a lot of people, focus and really get to the grind of, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you also became a hypnotist as well.
Yes. Yeah. So my journey went into another phase in 2009, right around the time my 20th book came out. I ended up in a divorce. I'd been married 30 years. 30 years of marriage, 7 children, no work resume for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
I had never had a W-2 all that time. I was writing books, but, royalties come in. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're not. It wasn't. And of course, I was an editor as well. I was editing for a publishing company by that point, book coaching I was doing. All of this was sideline stuff. I was not the breadwinner in the family. And in 2009, I found myself literally just out there in the world.
Wow.
What am I going to do now? I'm 52 years old. I have no resume. I don't even know what I want to do. I never considered the fact that I might be in the workforce. Never occurred to me. Never expected to be divorced. And so I went to,
that's funny. Who really expects that, right? But yeah.
I was married to a pastor. We really weren't into the divorce thing.
Okay.
It wasn't on the radar, you know.
It just goes to show you anybody can get divorced, right?
Absolutely, boy. And even at 40 years, 45 years, you know, it
Wow.
still happens. Yeah, my
wow.
sister's a counselor. She says she has clients that have been married 42 years.
Wow.
And in divorce. So anyway, all that long story short, it put me into a journey of personal development. And because I was in that very conservative world, and it had a framework and a box that was about this big, right? And everybody in the box, you know, which you could pretty much put it around your own 2 feet, was okay. And everybody outside the box was bad, really bad. And so all of that, you know, that judgmental spirit, that condemnation, and you know, as I was being writing, and I was getting speaking invitations, and I was going out to speak. I was leaving my safe little world, and I was going out to speak. I was meeting people who had different ideas, and I was learning to know them, and they were responding to what I was saying from the stage. It would come up to me and talk, and I was getting a wider view of the world. And, you know, there's some really good people out there. There's some really nice people, some good-hearted, big-hearted, wonderful people out there in the world. And that was part of my expansion, that I started to see this little thing right here. That's just made up. That's man-made. That's just control. And I just could not deal with it anymore. Now, that's not why I left my marriage, but it was a piece of my power. No doubt. I have.
No doubt. And I think we all find that, you know, it's interesting because I, at least I, and I'm sure a lot of people look back over their lives, especially as you're older, you know, over 50, 55, you know, you kind of really go back and reflect, you know, and you kind of say, you know, wow, you know, what was all that about? And how did it go from here to there? So I think you're right. I think we evolve in our own self, where we do break out of certain situations or people, you know, because we're meant to go in this other direction, you know, not necessarily meaning you have to divorce or you have to leave, but a lot of times it does require that, you know.
It depends on the other person. If the other person is willing to expand, willing to grow, then, you know, you can modify that and shift together. But if the other person is rigid and is not willing to do that changing, then eventually, you know, it's just naturally, it's naturally going to happen. I see a lot of people in their 50s. In that situation. So that put me on that spiritual journey. Now, what that did for me at that age was it put a lot of question marks in my life. You're like, God, are you there? Are you real? Do you really exist? You know, I've been living my life inside these lines, and I've been working really hard to color in the lines. And everybody told me that everything was going to be great, hunky-dory, wonderful if I did that. And now here I am, I'm on the sidewalk. I have no way to earn a living. What in the heck am I going to do now? And so for 2 years, I was just like in this shock state. I just, you know, I just kind of coasted. My mother had a business. I went to work for her for a little while. I started picking up VA, virtual assistant jobs, and just piecing together, you know, I was living on about $1,200 a month at that point, and praying, you know, I was eating ramen a lot, and, you know, that was my life. And at the same time, I met someone who did the emotion code. I was at an eWomen Network event in Charlotte, North Carolina, because I was living in South Carolina at the time, just across the border. And I was going to North Carolina to do business networking. And this woman came. It's one of these moments. She came and put her hands flat on the table. I was standing behind the table because I had some stuff there because I was selling a program. And she put her hands on the table. She looked me in the eyes and she said, "You and I are going to do great work together."
Wow. And I went,
wow. Who are you? You know?
Right. Like, what's this about?
What kind of work are you thinking? And so we set up a call, and she was an ICU nurse, wonderful person, but she had discovered the emotion code, and that is using magnets to clear the body of stuck energy. And she was using the emotion code, and that was her practice. She gave me a trial run when I was very scared. I was super scared of anything that was outside of my, framework.
Oh, yeah.
And I found out it's just magnets running magnets over the body. I'm like, well, that's not, nothing scary about that. And so we had our first session, and it changed my entire life. It just opened me up to see that there's relief out there. There's help out there. It's not hard. It's not scary. It's not painful. It's easy. It's gentle. It's safe. And if we just open ourselves to receive that, we can get that elevated state and relieve ourselves of this heaviness that we.
Yes, you just put that beautifully. Thank you. That was beautiful the way you just described that. And I agree with you. I think when you really realize, well, I'm really into reincarnation, so I'm a big believer. We all knew what our plans were on the other side before we came in. A basic, overview. We knew what we were coming to Earth for, our soul's growth and our soul's mission, for ourselves and for the collective of the consciousness of the world. So I agree with you. And I think when you do what you just said, you kind of start trusting and opening up a little bit, your life does start changing, and it may be slow and it may take some time, but there is a individual path. Your soul's intuitive side of you does know which way to go, so I agree. I love how you put that. It was very, very, well said.
Thank you. I always think about people saying, I didn't sign up for this. Well, guess what? Yes, we did.
Oh my God, I can't believe you said that. I think that all the time. I mean, I try to be careful because, I can really get into that whole subject because I love it. But you're right. I mean, in my mind, I'm like, I know it doesn't seem like you did. Yeah. But believe it or not, there's a part of you down deep, your soul does know, and it does remember if you want to remember what it was that you decided to come down here to do. And, the beautiful thing is, we all have guides and we have cheerleaders. Our guides are our cheerleaders on the other sides, besides the angelic world. So we do have a plan, that we came in with. It's just the fact of trying to remember, allow yourself to remember, right? But I can't believe you said that. I think that all the time. But I'm very careful because if somebody's not really in tune with that thinking, I find it's very hard for them to really kind of accept that. It's almost like, really, you think I would have chosen this? And I'm like, yeah.
Yes. And I sorry to interrupt you. I just
no, go right ahead. No, this is a very free flowing. No, jump right in.
Okay. I had a lot of those feelings, and a lot of anger, a lot of rage. All of my boys, 6 of my 7 children turned away from me during that period of time. I broke up the family. And that was so painful.
Oh, I can't imagine.
That was so painful. I had dedicated my life to staying home, training them, schooling them.
Wow.
And poured my heart into them to have them turn away.
Yeah, no, I imagine, to me, it's one of the worst pains you can have on this earth. It's one of the deepest pains that you can experience. I've already had something like that a long time ago. It's very similar to that, but it's very difficult. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And from this side of things now, because it's been 11 years since since that happened, and we're healed now, which thanks to COVID, the family is healed.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So I'm just so grateful. My oldest son said to me, I feel like I've got my family back. I feel like I've got my family back because we were so worried about each other.
Wow.
During that time. Yeah. So knowing what I can see from this perspective now and looking back during the time that I was going through those things, if you had told me, you know what, you planned this all out, this is what you decided to do before you ever came and your feet hit earth, I would get so angry and people will say, oh, you're just projecting. You're projecting, your own limiting beliefs. And I would get furious because I was in pain.
Yes.
I was in some serious pain. Yeah.
That's what I mean. I do. I think you got to be careful, because unless somebody's really not really there, to understand that, because it can sound a little bit kind of condemning, like, well, you chose this. So, so I agree with you. You do have to be very sensitive, because people are in pain until they open up to some more of this kind of idea, right? Or understanding.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my spiritual journey started there with the divorce, coming through that, that section of 2 years of real difficulty. And then in 2011, my daughter got sick. My daughter was so sick that I really was, and nobody could find anything wrong with her. She went 5 years with undiagnosed Lyme disease. She had fibromyalgia, was starting with rheumatoid arthritis. She was sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker until she could no longer live alone. She had to move in with me in 2014. And I watched her go downhill in 2016. She was really, really bad. And being, now that I know, I'm a psychic intuitive, I'm a natural spiritual healer. And she walked in my room one day and I looked at her and I saw the gray energy. And I went, oh my God, we've got to do something here. What is going on? And doctor after doctor, oh, your numbers are fine. I don't know. Maybe you need to see a psychiatrist. And I just wanted to hit them. I just was so angry. And so we did. I set up a GoFundMe page. We got a little money together because I was still living on just pennies and now trying to take care of my sick daughter. So no help from the other side of the family at all.
Wow.
So, what it ended up being was that my daughter is a healer, and she had to go through the valley of the shadow of death.
Right. I totally understand.
To heal herself. And now I'm getting such chills. I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
And today she's whole. Well,
I'll talk with you another day on stuff like that, because I do have something I would love to connect with you on that, because I totally understand that. Totally.
So in 2017, I saw someone on YouTube. I think the angels are on YouTube, right? The YouTube stream is just like angels are there and they're putting those stuff in. I saw this little guy. He looks kind of like a mad scientist. He had his hair like straight up in the front. He's a little dude. And he said, and his headline was, how to stop pain in 3 minutes or something like that. And I went, you can do that, and it was only, the thing was only like 6 or 7 minutes long. So I just clicked on it. He was doing a demo at the front of the room, and this guy comes up and says, yeah, I've had pain in my knee for 15 years. And he did his little process. It was moving the hands and telling him to do things. And there was no hocus pocus about it at all. And the guy gets a shocked look and goes, oh, the pain is gone, and walked back down. And I went, wait a minute. And I did some muscle testing and checking in. Yeah, that was real. Wow. Because by then I could tell what was right and what wasn't by muscle testing, So I went over to this man's website. I started to follow him. I was watching his YouTube videos. And in March of 2017, I flew to San Diego from Philadelphia, because I'm in Philadelphia. I flew to San Diego and I went to training. I stayed out there for a full week, 40 hours of training. Wow. And I learned how to do what he did.
Oh, wow.
But not just that what he did there, that pain relief, which is so important, not minimizing it all, was only that much of this big body of work, and learned how to release traumas from the past, stuck energies in the body, pain stories, family stories, past life stuff, through several different things. It's deep hypnosis with NLP, and then I brought in my own energy healing that I knew by that point, and made this body of work so transformative. 3 sessions is life-changing, and so I don't call myself a coach as much as I call myself a spiritual healer.
Okay.
Because I don't really coach people like through circumstances. I go in and heal the flesh of the energies that we have held right in this body of ours.
Right.
The body's like a refrigerator. It just, you put the bad stuff in there because you can't deal with it. And the next thing you know, your shoulder's hurting, your knees hurting. You've got this problem, that problem, generalized symptoms that nobody can seem to find out what they are, and with all that I went through with my daughter. And what happened in that week was that we would trade practicing on each other. And we had to make up a long list of things. And can you imagine 40 hours in a room with 60 people? And, like every hour or so, you're doing 3 healing sessions with somebody. And then the next hour, you do 2 or 3 more healing sessions with somebody. And by the time I came back, I walked in the door and put down my luggage. And my daughter said, "You're different."
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yes. Changed my whole perspective. Not that I'm not healing still, not that I'm not still, got stuff.
Sure.
That was a
and
turning
I
point.
like how you said that because, I've come to, because of my own personal life experiences as well, and it does have to do with something similar you just spoke about family-wise. And I think, for me, I feel like I do think a healing is really a ongoing. So I'm not a big believer anymore like I was when I first got into the whole metaphysical world back when I was 26, 28 years old. I don't really know if I would totally go with, somebody is healed. I do understand that that kind of has its place. But for certain things, I guess, or certain, I just think sometimes we are on some level in some areas of our life, always healing, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because there's just some things that are really, I don't know. I guess I feel like when you think about different lifetimes, I think we all know we carry things from lifetime to lifetime, which is what a lot of past life work is about, is healing that trauma. However, when you're in a new life like we are now, you also incur more. So, I'm not saying I don't believe people can be healed. I just think that there are certain things where I know this one particular thing with me that has happened in my life in this lifetime. I know for me, it's an ongoing process of healing. I don't ever really see it as healed. Just because there's a part of it that you can't get back of what happened. So, it's just an interesting subject all the way around, I think there's too much out there that I hear, oh, you can be healed and you can be healed, and I just kind of, have, different feelings about that. I'm not saying I don't think that's true. I think, I've had long distance healing from a friend and it's worked very well. But I just think there's certain things that, I don't think you can get completely healed. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with that. I believe I think that's all part of this lifetime that I know I chose. So that's part of it, right? That's part of what I also chose, right? Yeah. That it would be a lifelong healing process, that it would not be one of those you're healed, and I'm okay with that, because I know we're back on the other side and we're, we're back in a whole different, energy when you're on the other side. I have a lot of memory of being on the other side. Not everything, but a lot of memory of it. So, but yeah, that's really interesting work that you're doing. You really learned a lot. I guess that was a big part of your understanding of the healing was from that particular hypnosis experience, right? From that.
Right. And being the overachiever that I am, I went and took 3 more certifications from 3 different people.
Oh.
So I'm also certified in medical hypnosis. I went and I learned about the body and how the body responds to suggestions and questions, because if somebody is having a problem getting diagnosis, or maybe they're just not sure what's going on, to be able to ask the questions and then to get the subconscious mind to answer, because the body knows what's going on. The body knows why you're tired all the time, or why, you know, certain things are happening that maybe nobody else can figure out. This work is not diagnostic. We're not telling people, you know, you've got this disease or that disease. We're saying when you were 12, you know, something happened to you and that made this part weak, and maybe you better go to the doctor and get that checked out.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. It's funny because you just brought up a thought, and I don't want to talk too much because I really want to share, but it's funny what you just said. I've been a CNA for over 20 years, and there was a client I had a long time ago, an older woman, and she had rheumatoid arthritis really bad. Now, her father also had it when she was a younger girl. What happened was, the story real quick, which is kind of exactly what I can relate what you're saying. It really has to do with things that have happened in our lives. She was a young girl with her sister, and the school took a trip to, I forget where it was, but it was at a amusement park. And they were on a ride that was one of those that kind of flew around up in the air, and her sister ended up, the seat they were in opened, and the sister fell out and fell into a pond of water and died.
Oh my God.
And you know, she was a young girl, you know, when she lost her sister, and her parents, you know, of course, it was too much for them. They ended up divorcing. But the father, soon after that incident with his daughter, seemed to have developed. And it's interesting because it seems like I felt like she kept saying to me, like, she carried this guilt because she felt like, you know, a lot of times people who, when one of the children is alive and one's dead, they kind of felt like, one, they kind of became a little bit invisible, you know, because the parents were grieving over the other child. And 2, she felt like she sometimes wished, you know, she could have done something, you know. So it's funny because talking with her about it, and I said, well, that's interesting that you developed the same thing your father did. And she said she was always wanting to try to get closer to her dad, and she couldn't seem to break through. So I thought, you know, it's kind of interesting. You ended up with the same thing that, you know, that he did. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. It's funny how that emotional drama or trauma and drama stays in the body, you know, in all parts of the body and the mind, you know, and needs to be released, which is, you know, the kind of work you're talking about. Yeah. And a lot of times it can't be. Doctors can hook you up to all kinds of machines and they can tell you different things, but this is something really much more, I think, much more deeper and personal that really kind of helps unlock, you know, what the problem or what it is, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my daughter did go to the doctor, and she did take some medication, and she did go to an herbalist and a nutritionist. And, you know, it wasn't like she sat at home doing yoga. She actually did follow the breadcrumbs. This helped, and then she went to the next thing, and that helped, and it was a journey. It was a journey. So one of the things that I, you know, to your point about healing, is that releasing the need for life to be perfect, releasing the need for myself to be perfect, and realizing that this is, life is a journey, and every day we can choose our vibration, we can choose our peace level, because the only thing holding us back from peace is our own attachments, our own self-judgments. And so if something comes up tomorrow, then we'll just, you know, go through the releasing then and get back to, you know, to peace again. And that is the way this human experience unfolds. The thought that, you know, we're going to get to this end and every life is going to be all cherries and roses it's a mirage. It's not even real. Yeah.
No, I agree with you completely. I think, you know, when I wrote my autobiography, that was one thing I put in my book, was it was literally putting one foot in front of the other. literally to get through this one time period when I was young, when I was 19 and had my first breakdown. But really it had a lot more to do with spiritual attacks on the darker side. Very long story, but I do think that, like you said, it is a process that you have to allow yourself to say, it's going to take some time, and that's okay, right? We're all here to do time on some level. So you might as well make the best of it that you can, So yeah, it is a process, and it is not some miracle working, I'm not saying that can't happen as well. I've seen that, happen, where somebody will have 1 or 2 or 3 past life regressions, and literally whatever their issue, was resolved that quick. But I think for the most part, I agree. I think when you're talking about our attitudes and our choices, that every day we do have to really try to keep that on the forefront, And it's funny because this conversation keeps coming up about, I have some people are kind of like, well, you're always positive, and one friend felt like I really wasn't good with dealing with being down or like depressed. I said, for me, it's not that everything's great in my life all the time, because it's not. We all know, everybody. But I feel like if I didn't stay positive, I felt like things would just get worse. I find even though things may be bad, I still try to literally, I don't know if you want to say pretend, but I kind of like choose on some level to still feel positive, because I feel like if I go with that other feeling, for me, it feels like to me things get worse. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
so
indeed.
I'm not saying that people should not feel their grief or feel their, if you have mourning, I do that. Of course I go through periods of grief and mourning, but I'm saying on an everyday basis, I really choose very strongly that if I can be positive, and even though it's maybe not a great day, I find that things turn around a lot quicker, right?
Oh, absolutely. And there are different emotions that have different responses. For example, sadness. Sadness is something that sometimes you just have to let it come out. You just have to cry. You just have to release. You just have to let the sadness show up in the way that it's going to show up and dissipate, that way. Other emotions like anger, there is usually a trigger, and that is something when you get really, really angry, especially me, because I had a lot of pent up rage because I felt I'd been done wrong, on many levels by different people. Mm-hmm. And I really was. It wasn't my imagination. There was a lot of people that did me wrong.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. But I got to the point in my journey where I suddenly realized, if I get really angry, especially quickly, mm-hmm. that is like a red flag waving, and I get real excited and I go into meditation. I'm like, oh, what's that? I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna pull that thing out. I'm gonna
find out what that's really about, because a lot of people, I think, at least most people, kind of start realizing what your anger is not always what you think it is. I mean, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's face value. But other times it's really something much deeper, like what you're saying. It's triggered from something else that, never got resolved, right? So yes. Yeah, you can sit quietly in meditation or just reflecting and try to go really deep and say, man, what is that really? It is. It's amazing, really, really. We're getting a little bit late, and these sessions, when I talk with my guests, these times go so quick, and there's so much more to share. But I know I told you, like I tell all my guests, I like repeating guests because I like my audience to get to know you. So we'll be doing this again, and we still have a little bit of time, but I want you to give your website so people can reach you. And okay. I know it's on the screen, but I want you to say it out loud, because I also have an audience in Southwest Florida that's just on the radio. Okay. And this will air twice a week in Southwest Florida on the radio. So if you can say it out loud, your website, that way everybody can get it.
Okay. It's Lana McAra, my name, lanamcara.com. And over there, I have a free 7-minute video, how to release negative thinking in 7 minutes or less. You can download that to your phone. It's a cute little process where you do some hand motions and that kind of thing. So you can throw away your negative thoughts and put it on your phone whenever you have one of those upsetting moments. Just hit the button, watch the 7 minutes, and keep going on with your day.
That's great. That's great. Okay. So anybody that needs to get that spelling or information of Lana's website, you can all reach me at imaginepeacenow.com. imaginepeacenow.com. You do need to put the .com, and you'll get to my website. And I would be happy to forward Lana's information to you. So anybody out there that has heard it on the radio that needs that information, you can reach me as well, and I will pass on Lana's information. So this is really exciting. I'm so glad to have, it's funny how Spirit always has their hands in this stuff, because, sometimes I have my weeks planned out for guests and sometimes I don't. Mostly I didn't this time because I was in the middle of a move the last few days to a week. So you just happened, somehow we just I saw you on Facebook and I'm like, oh, I'm going to ask her if she's, open. And it worked out perfectly, of course, right? So, yeah, I'm so glad that you were able to, come on and share with us. I'm amazed at your story. Absolutely. I think your inspiration of the life, and I think we can all, take something away from that. I think my story is very similar to yours in some ways, not with 7 kids, though I would have liked to have had 7 kids. Just similarities of, having it really, really tough. So, I just feel like those kind of stories are really important to keep putting out there, especially now, that if you can rise above, what you have, other people can say, wow. I mean, really, 7 kids, and doing all that you've accomplished. I mean, it's really amazing, really amazing. So I want to thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sherri, for opening your platform to me, for giving me an invitation, a place to speak. I really resonate with you and what you're doing here. So
I know. It's I have a very good feeling, like an easy flow with you. It's really wonderful. So yeah, I want to open it up a little bit more for maybe another 5 to 8 minutes. If there's anything else that you would like to share, anything you might be doing now, or if you want to, if there's anybody else that would like to have you on their show or speaking engagements, anything that you want to share. I know you said you're working on another book, so you are kind of doing that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. It's book number 36.
I'm gonna have to hook up with you. I'm serious. I'm not kidding, Lana. I need to get with you because I have no idea how to do that. I get a feeling it may not be too hard, but there's something that I'm not yet. So I'll be having a session with you. Maybe we'll do I do readings. I do tarot readings. So we'll see what we can do. But I would love to be able to work with you on that. Because I have about probably 10 to 15 books on my computer. And I'm like,
I'm a book coach, an editor, and a ghostwriter. So I have kind of 2 parts to my life, which maybe that's why Spirit's bringing this up now. I have the spiritual side, which I do that practice, and I love that. But I also have the writing side, which I also love dearly. And sometimes when people need some help with getting their book done, I do book coaching.
Okay.
Where I look at your stuff and give you, advice and that kind of thing. Or I also have a novel course if somebody wants to write a novel and they don't know how, which we have lessons, and that's also coaching. So
I want to put that out there really big because I keep running into people, Lana, all the time. They're like, well, I'd really like to write a book, but I don't know how. Or some people really kind of say, well, why would somebody want to read my book? I tell them, I said, they would want to read your book because there is nobody else on the planet like you. That's why they would want to read your book, because there is no one else like you. So your writing or your style would be, different than anybody else's in the world. So I really want to put that out there to all the writers or wannabe writers, authors. Definitely contact Lana and ask her about maybe getting some guidance about how to start or get involved in doing that. So I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's really important. I keep finding more and more people that are wanting to do that. So
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We have like a couple more minutes. I try to go up to like about 10 of or so.
Okay.
Kind
I
of.
have something that I had started doing last year, and that is a love campaign. And I want to just invite anybody that's listening who's on Facebook to go to either my profile page or my profile or my Lana McAra page, and you'll see a red square with the word love in white, and it says please share. Because I was so impressed with this person. This guy got the idea to put love on billboards. And when he did this at his own expense.
Where was that? What state or what area?
I don't remember the state, but he did it in a few different states.
Okay.
I'm not sure where it started, but he did it at his own expense. So this was kind of his retirement thing that he did. And when he would put up these billboards, it was just the color red with love, the word love in white, and then began to track the effect of it. And when he did that, crime rates would go down. There would be less domestic violence. There was a lot of positivity that happened because the word love was shared out like that. And so I made up a red background with the word love. I put underneath, please share. And I just invite everybody, go over and share love. Share it, because right now we need it. We need love, because love, the vibration of love, is what's going to change the conflicts that we feel all around us. You cannot argue someone into coming into a loving state. The only way to do it is to open your heart and emanate love, broadcast love from your heart, and change the literal vibration in the air. And one of the ways to do that is to share that little sign, that love sign, all over the place. Who would be offended by that? Who would say, don't share that? Get it out there, because we need it. We really need it. And so when that happened, when I got that idea and I started to share that out, I realized that when I was thinking about people that had need, if I was in a space of lower vibration, worry, blame, anger, that worry vibration, and I was thinking about that person, I'm actually drawing energy away from them. But if my heart was full of love and I could just let the love spill over, let it spill over and emanate out to them, that is lifting. That's helping.
Not only that, but it's actually doing it not just for the other person, but it's actually going into the collective. So anytime we really do, and again, we're not trying to say you don't want to not feel your emotions. We're not promoting that. I think it's more about keeping in the forefront that though that's still a good thing to express your emotions, when you're talking where it's really kind of deep and darker, where it's becoming then you're doing more damage, not only to the other person, but to yourself and to the collective of the world. So again, that's one of those things that, we can all be more aware of. So I just want to, again, thank you for being on our show. Again, we're going to put up Lana's website real quick. That way, for those who are viewing us on YouTube, you'll be able to get a hold of Lana and check her out and all the great work she's doing. So I'm really excited to have met you. And I'm sure we're going to have a much longer conversation, you and I, at another time. So, thank you again, Lana. I just want to, I'm honored that you were able to join me this week since it was such short notice. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for your invitation.
Okay. So I want to thank my audience again for joining us week after week. It's always interesting to me what's going to transpire, who's going to be on the show, and what conversations we're going to unravel. And I always hope that somehow it is bringing some kind of new information for you that might help you in your life or help a loved one, or hopefully just we keep moving forward. I think the whole idea with everything going on in the world that we just need to keep remembering there are a lot of us, a lot of individuals in the world that are trying to keep each one of us afloat, right? Trying to help us all to, deal with whatever we're dealing with every day or every week. So I want to thank you for joining us. And I hope you'll be back next week for another great show on Secrets of the Universe. I want to thank my managers again. I like to do that from time to time. I have 2 different managers that are just very valuable to me. They're so wonderful in keeping this show and my radio show in Southwest Florida, keeping it going for me. I am really thankful to them. So we'll see you next week, and follow the path so divine for you, designed for you. Take care.
Become a Goldylocks Productions VIP patron. Receive exclusive access to live stream special and other epic perks. Join the Goldylocks Productions VIP community today.